Speak the charm of make, charm of make, charm of make, charm of make, charm of make.
There will come a time on the planet Earth when science and technology will be long forgotten. When wizards will rule the world.
This is the Arnemancy Podcast, exploring esotericism, tarot, magic, and the occult. I am Reverend Eric.
Hey guys, it's me, Eric.
Hey, that's my fucking opening. Don't you dare steal it.
Well, it's too late. I'm here with Alexx from the Alexx.
Arnemancy! Welcome to Wormhole.
Hi, Alexx.
Hi, Eric.
So, Alexx is the host of the Alexx Cast, which is the only Alexx-based podcast in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. There might be others by now.
Yeah, but not like Alexx with two X's.
There may be. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that nearly 10 years ago when I started the show, it was the only Alexx-based podcast in the history of the universe.
So you're the graybeard of Alexx's in podcasting.
Yeah, I suppose so.
All right. So Alexx the veteran. And he's here on the first episode of the Arnemancy Podcast, primarily because it's his fault that this happened.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I blame me.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I decided that I was going to start a new podcast under Arnemancy and sort of stop working on My Alchemical Bromance because I wanted a couple things. First of all, branding, right? Because I was trying to tell everybody that I was two different things all the time, and it got confusing. And I just don't have enough of an audience or enough output to really feed more than one name. You know, it's not like I'm not the Mike Patton of content production in the world.
Well, let me give this little bit of explanation because I feel like I can give more truth because I can say it more negatively.
Okay.
My Alchemical Bromance is a terrible name. I've known you for the entire time the show's been on, basically, and I don't know the names of your co-hosts. Therefore, it's your show. Why is it called My Alchemical Bromance? You should rebrand as Arnemancy. Now, you can't say that. I'm not even saying you agree with what I just said, but I'm saying that's my opinion.
Well,
and weirdly enough, now there's a show called Arnemancy with only you on it.
I do like the name. I think it's a fun name. But it is kind of goofy.
It is, and it's based on a terrible band.
I've never listened to their music. I mean,
they're not terrible. They're just like the most like plain like that era rock music you can ever find.
Yeah, and it definitely the name interferes with search results.
Yes,
because if you Google My Alchemical Bromance, and by the way, I don't think anybody should use Google. If you use DuckDuckGo and look up My Alchemical Bromance, it's going to think you mean My Chemical Romance, and it's going to send you to those results. So yeah, the branding stuff was kind of an issue, but also like creative direction. I wanted to have the freedom to do my own thing, and I felt like since I nominally had two other co-hosts, every time I wanted to change stuff up, I had to be like, oh, I better check with them first. So it was a good idea. Thank you, Alexx. When you came up with the idea and I agreed to it, you made me promise that you could be my first guest. So here you are.
Okay, that's not really what happened.
Oh, I'm certain that's what happened.
Let's hold here. Move your mic that way because you keep moving away from it.
This way?
Yeah, you keep going over here.
Oh.
Which is where the mic isn't.
Oh yeah, it's because I can't see you. Okay.
Oh, that's fine. Like
right,
then your eyeballs are above Mike, so now now you're not going to dodge it as much. It's just an instinct. That's actually why these things don't do anything. They're literally so people always want to put their mouth on the mic. These are almost useless when you have the baffle on. I just put them there so people don't put their face on the mic. These are literally spacers, which is I'll tell you because I trust you. But like kind of noobs to people on mics this is literally just zoo animal shit. That's so you don't put your face on the mic and go pop plosive.
Okay. Okay. So. All right, so fine. That's not exactly how it went, but
yeah, what I remember was we're sitting at the bar. I was wearing an ermine cloak on my typical throne, carried around by Vestal virgins, and you said, "Oh, please." I mean, this was a little. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but you're like, "Oh, Alexx, please bless me with your divine wisdom. What shall I do in my future endeavors?" And I deign to give you information. I may be a little high, and no, but I remember giving you advice, and then you saying you really need to be my first guest. There's no one else in the world that could ever, be in your shoes. Without you, I'm nothing. Something along those lines.
I think you might be a little high.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the reality is it was probably somewhere in between those two.
The cloak was real.
I don't think there were any virgins.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. I was trying to remember what I was trying to make a pun off of Vestal, and I'm like, nope, doesn't work. That bar has a vestibule. No, doesn't work.
No. Well, Vesta was an ancient Roman goddess.
Yeah, no, I was trying to find a way to make a pun off of that, and it just, nothing was happening. But anyway, Ermine Cloak.
Ermine Cloak. So, all right. So I thought that we would come on and maybe we would talk about tarot. And so we're in Alex's dungeon right now. I mean, his basement or whatever you call this place.
Used to be called Echo Chamber Studios, but now I have enough this weird squishy stuff hanging on the wall, so it's not as echoey as it used to be.
We call it now Foam Wall Studios.
Yes.
And we brought out a bunch of tarot decks. So we've got some tarot decks and some oracle decks. I've got the Picatrix Decan deck. I've got some abnormal tarot decks. We've got BMO here to keep us company. And I thought we would start by... so, Alexx, you've been using tarot for a zillion years, right?
Yeah, I got my first deck in 95, 96, something like that.
And was it a Thoth deck?
It was literally the Thoth deck that is sitting on the table right now.
It was that Thoth deck?
This deck has been around since 95, 96. I have been using it somewhat regularly that entire time, and it is in remarkable shape because I so fell in love with this thing that it was like a rookie baseball card. I shouldn't have used that analogy because I know nothing about baseball, but I imagine it's like how you would take care of something that kind of valuable. So I have these things have been with me through many, many moves. I've kept them in places of honor. I actually had the box it came in for the first 15 years of ownership, but then eventually it finally degraded down. So now I have it in a velvet satchel. But yeah, this is the deck.
Is the deck. Oh wow.
Yeah. So there's a lot of mojo on that guy.
So I've been using tarot since I was a kid. Probably I must have been 12 or 13 years old. But my first deck is long gone, and I didn't bring any of my really long-time decks with me, but I did bring the Rota Tarot from Sor Tzadkiel, which is sort of the deck that I carry with me all the time.
Is that's your main use deck?
Yeah, and it's I love it. It's definitely, I would say, unusual. It's very brightly colored. I enjoy the symbolism quite a bit, and yeah, so I was thinking we could experiment. Let's do some tarot.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So I've never used a Thoth deck. I mean, I've never owned one.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with it. Should we start with that? Well,
what I was going to say is I will grant you use of my Thoth deck. Why don't you play around with it and see what you can do?
All right. Why don't you take a look at this one?
Yes, I do want to see the Rota Tarot because I've seen this a lot on your social media, especially when I believe you had the person that made these on, right?
Oh yeah, she used to live in town.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was I think that was a really fun episode. Oh, these are great looking. Why have I?
They're beautiful. Yeah. It's a Lady Frida Harris is the lady that painted them all. They're gorgeous. There is so much symbolism wrapped up. That's right. I think you would geek out in these so hard. Every card has 6 layers of there's an alchemical story rolled into there, the alchemical wedding is told in that deck, and then every card has all the astrological kind of overlay, and then the mythical overlay. It's so ridiculously deep. That's why I've had it for so long, and I think I don't know anything about tarot because I started reading on those.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, the Thoth Tarot is tied to Aleister Crowley, and that's probably been one of the reasons that I've avoided it so much. I've never really been a big Crowley fan.
I am not a Crowley fan. I say this, I loathe that man. I think he's half an ass and a hypocrite, but he made a really, really good tarot deck. That's just one. It's like shitty parents that made a rad kid. I don't know anything about Frida Harris, but
well, I mean, honestly, so I've been listening to Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast, which is an exploration of tarot, and the ladies that do that are just like experts in this stuff, and they make a really good argument for paying attention to the Thoth deck, even though you may not like Crowley. So looking at it now, I'm thinking to myself, I should probably.
Dude, there's so much stuff in there. I've been saying this for a while. I like this deck too. This is like a little more simple than I like the Rhoda deck I'm going through. Mm-hmm. This is the thing that not bothers me, but I maybe you can answer. Why is Baphomet or a version of Baphomet on a lot of devil cards?
I believe that the version of Baphomet that's on all the devil cards dates back to Wait.
Well, it's Alpheus Levy, right? Was the guy that came up with the Baphomet that looks like that?
Yeah, and
I probably pronounced both his names wrong, but
I always call him Eliphas Levy.
Yeah, I was going to say
but I have no idea.
90% of the stuff I know, I've never said out loud. So it's like as I said that, I'm like, oh, no idea if I.
He's been dead for 200 years.
No, but it's just strange that it's. That's like the common thing of like when people confuse Baphomet with the devil. It's like, well, why do people in the know do that? Because it's not.
Well, Wait is the symbol. I'm not sure that there's anything that anybody's. That's a really good question. Baphomet itself, like just all the stuff about Baphomet, like if you run it through the Atbash cipher, it spells Sophia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is bizarre.
I always took it to be the. Sorry, just stepped on you, but I always took it to the thing with it's French making fun of Muhammad. Do you know that one?
Yeah, I've heard that too. And it's supposedly somehow tied into the whole Knights Templar stuff.
Well, that's the Muhammad thing. The Knights Templar sided with one side of some Middle Eastern conflict, so they're making them having Baphomet was them siding with the Mohammedans. Blah blah blah. You get the
So the Atbash cipher thing that ties Baphomet to like a Gnostic goddess.
Yes.
Thing is just bizarre. Like, is that just coincidence? And really, it could be.
Well, I mean, the Atbash cipher, the one that I've seen, what the things people have shown me, comes out with like 20-something results for any given thing. Mm-hmm. So 20.
Oh no, that's not the Atbash.
Oh, am I confusing with another one?
The Atbash is a really, really simple cipher. In the Atbash cipher, you take the Hebrew alphabet and you have it one way, and then you reverse it right underneath, and that's the key. So basically...
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different cipher thing. Yeah, because there's... Oh, God, what's that called? It sounds like that, though. Oh, who gives a shit? Sorry. I had a group of friends that kept sending me this one website that was like one of these cipher symbol dealies, but its results were always 20-something results. Mm-hmm. And, you know what it was? It was one of the Crowley ones. It was something to do with the Book of Lies. It's one of those deals where one of the cipher system goes to... That's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, and I've looked at it a little bit.
Yeah, and that one's get a bunch of results for each, so it's like, so 20-something words, you can, within 20 words, I can find something that seems magic-y.
Ciphers like that are primarily contemplative tools, though. I mean, they aren't supposed to necessarily really hide any sort of secret. But so...
him allowing the growth of the clone army, I think that... Oh, no, that was Sifo Dyas.
Who the heck is Sifo?
That was a deep cut Star Wars reference. That was the name of the Jedi that supposedly allowed the clone army to be created.
Oh, right. That dude, he made a mistake.
Sorry. I'm not sorry at all. But
well, honestly, like without the clone army, the droid army would have taken over everything.
Yeah, and that would have been bad?
Would that have been bad?
I don't know. I've never really I've watched those movies a whole bunch of times, and I swear it doesn't make a whole shitload of sense.
It seems to me that the droid army was fighting for greater economic freedom. Or something of that nature.
It's really bad.
I don't remember why the clone army was important.
Well, I mean, I think they were. It was one of those, hidden hand doing both sides kind of thing. Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to the cipher.
Okay. All right, let's get back to the cipher. So, like for instance, with the I'm going to get this wrong because I can't remember exactly how it works out. But in the Atbash cipher, if you're going to spell Baphomet in Hebrew, For instance, maybe you'd spell it bet, pay, mem, baphomet, tav. So if you reverse that, bet would go with sheen. Pay would probably, I guess, have to go with pay. Is pay right in the middle? I don't even remember. I thought like noon was right in the middle. Well, anyhow, but it ends up turning into Sophia.
Yeah.
Where I think mem ends up being ayin. I can't remember. Obviously, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, so I didn't look at it too much. But that sort of hidden thing is really interesting. So, and then Eliphas Levi, I think, was the first one who sort of tied Baphomet into like the alchemical symbolism as well. I don't know, because you always see like Baphomet with Solway and coagula on its arms, and then and having like the male and female blended and all this sorts of stuff. And then, what is it, like the Church of Satan or whatever had that Baphomet statue put in the, where was that? Some southern state.
Yeah.
Probably gets super annoyed by it.
I think it's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma had the 10 Commandments out front that I think...
and I think that's what their response to it was, that they were going to put a Baphomet statue up next to the 10 Commandments because if you're allowed religious symbolism on it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And
then it ended up in Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
Yes. Which
was entertaining.
It was. I only watched the first season, but the first season was entertaining.
All right, so I'm gonna draw some cards. You want to draw some? Is there?
You know what we should do? Let's make you really uncomfortable on your first episode.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you do the full Crowley layout. So this is gonna sound weird for a second.
What the heck is the full Crowley?
So this is the way I read tarot, and I'm gonna make you lay out a full spread. And obviously, this is gonna be way too many cards for you to read on the show, but it'll be fun for you to get overwhelmed.
He's clearing off a lot of space. This is going to be a ginormous...
Shuffle it up, and I'll tell you... Well, this is the way I do it. So shuffle it. You're going to be me in this. Shuffle it up.
Okay.
And then I'm going to tell you when to stop.
All right. Let's see if I can...
I don't know if that's the way you do it. Or this thing, whatever you call that. I mean, if you can shuffle those like in the traditional riffle way, go for it. But those cards are fucking big.
These cards are enormous, and I have very presidential hands.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I can't actually. I mean, I can sort of riffle them, but like, I think that's those kind of things are fine. All right, and 4 more of those. I want you to stop.
Can our guests at home hear?
Possibly.
The cards I'm shuffling.
Yeah.
All right, how close am I?
Right there, I want you to stop. Perfect.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I'm going to show Eric how to lay out a Thoth thing. You're going to have to be on this side of the table, so I'm going to walk... No, you know what? Here. Well, I'm going to lay it out for you, because it's not like it really matters who holds the cards now. So
okay. I'll narrate.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're clearing the space even more.
So... The center, it's a 15-card layout, and I'm just going to lay it out, and I can show you what I mean.
Okay.
So it goes 1, 2.
It's looking good 3. So far. There's sort of 3 in a row in the middle. I have seen this before. It's sort of like this giant weird H-ish thing. There are too many cards for the table. Okay, that's 15.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so what do we have in the middle? We've got... Is that the Magician? Did we start off with the Magician?
That's the Magus.
The Magus. Oh, I feel like...
Number 1 card.
Okay, and then way up here, we've got the 3 of Wands.
But we also have the Hierophant. So... This is I'm gonna force you to read.
Okay.
So this is what the layout means.
Do we need to? We're gonna have to move the microphones then. Or. Something.
Yeah. Well, let's. I'll explain what it means, and then we'll figure it out. Okay. So the center here is querence or question.
Okay.
These are possible futures. That's future. If they disagree, it's one or the other. If they read into each other, it can be the same thing.
Okay.
Down here is your psychological influences. Mm-hmm. Wait, how does he word it? Hold on one second. I don't want to describe this poorly. What did I do with my bag? Well, the problem is that I've been doing this forever, and the way that I read the bottom two, I have a feeling disagrees with Do you see a red tarot bag?
A red tarot bag.
Oh, yes. Okay.
There.
I want to give the proper what he says it means.
Okay.
So, yeah, I was right. So this is the psychological cards. So this is the basis of decision making.
That's the bottom left triad. Yeah. Okay.
And then the bottom right over here is like, I call it karma, but that's godly forces, exterior stuff that is unchangeable, immutable. But in my head, that's karma. But,
okay. So, we're looking at 15 cards here.
Yeah, this is, sorry, I'm overtaking your show for 1 second. I just want to be very clear here. This is incredibly unfair of me towards Eric, and there is zero expectation of successful read. I think this is the second largest common spread there is. I think I've seen one with more cards, but this is overwhelming amount of cards, especially with a deck you're not familiar with. So I want to give the warning for your listeners, because I know Eric is a talented reader, and I don't want to.
Do you remember the first time I read cards for you? I think I came on your show the first time and I read your cards, and you were like, "Oh, nobody can read cards for me," and neither could I.
Yeah, but this time you have an excuse. That time was you just fell on your face.
You've got some of these cards are just beautiful.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, I'm kind of, I'm not completely ignorant of the deck. I just haven't really spent very much time.
Oh, this was actually the card I referenced before. Like, he's riding like the staff of Asclepius.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the Magus.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's just like there's so many layers of things that aren't like shoved in your face, like a lot of the kind of Rider-Waite-Smith style, where it's just
yeah. All right. Well, for those of you playing along at home, I'm going to read out the 15 cards, starting with the center. So the center 3 cards from left to right are the Hierophant, the Magus, and the 2 of Coins. The upper left, which is the first of the possible future triads.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I read them right to left, but I don't know if that's just me. I shouldn't have interrupted. Sorry. Sorry. I should. As I said it, I went, "Oh, that's just." I've been doing this.
I'm going to read them.
Sorry, read them the way you want. Sorry, I did my part. It just, it's like someone driving your car you've had since high school, where it's like, no. You have to shift this way.
All right. The upper left triad is the Tower, the Aeon, and the 5 of Wands. The upper right is the Princess of Cups, the Princess of Wands, and the 3 of Wands. Okay, the lower left, which you said was the psychological triad. Yeah. We've got the 6 of Wands, the 4 of Cups, and the 7 of Cups. Ooh, wow, that one's cool. Okay, and then the bottom right, which is the karmic triad, is that what you said?
Yeah, like karma, outside influences, godly stuff, discorporate entities enacting upon you, shit like that.
We have down here the Knight of Wands, Fortune, which is like, it's the Wheel of Fortune, number 10 in the Major Arcana, and then the 7 of Wands. All right. Well, so in most of the styles of reading that I know, the first thing you do is you sort of look at like what elements are kind of controlling the whole thing, and we have an overwhelming number of wands here,
which is weird for me. I'm usually swords and horrors.
So out of the 15 cards, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wands, 3 cups. And the rest are major arcana. So we're looking at something super big. This reading is big. It's, wands and cups are fire and water, and in terms of like the sort of Kabbalistic map of the universe, are kind of like the top 2 elements. So those cards are sort of like indicating that we're not necessarily dealing with a manifested idea or anything of anything that is necessarily yet impacting the material world. Now, right here in the middle of the whole reading is the Magus, and I feel like not only was it the first card we pulled out, but it just feels like everything else in the card radiates out from the central point in the Magus, because that's just sort of how the artwork works. All right, let's look down here at the psychological part of here. We've got the 6 of Wands, the 4 of Cups, and the 7 of Cups. You say you usually read them. Do you ever read them just from like the center outward?
Yeah, what I meant by that was, and I realized immediately that I was telling you how to drive my blessing. I meant the future stuff is because the top 2 lines are connected to each other, the top 6 cards. For some reason in my head, it goes, the rightmost is like the one to start with.
Okay.
And then if this one connects to the right, it's a 6-card thing. If it doesn't connect, then it's kind of 2 future paths. The fact that change is at center, not trying to tell you how to read, but like to me, change at center would mean that these 2 are probably in opposition. But I'm literally not even looking at these cards. I'm trying to just let you do what you would do with a completely unfamiliar deck and layout.
We've got, I would say that it's, if I'm going to look at these cards, I'm hoping that they are not connected to 2 future paths. Because on the left, we've got the Tower, Aeon, and the 5 of Wands, which is also labeled as strife. Now, the Tower is not a comfortable card ever. That is a card of abrupt change and sometimes very catastrophic change, usually changes that you're not really planning for. And then the 5 of Wands way over there, that strife card is also a card about like change that you might not have as much control over as you'd like. Every 4 is sort of about things sitting still, and so 5s tend to be new motion and new direction. And the fire suit of Wands is one of those suits that, though it's very powerful, it isn't always your friend. It's like fire. You can either burn and destroy, or you can use it to create. So that whole upper left triad of the Tower, the Aeon, and the 5 of Wands just makes me kind of feel like, okay, there's an end in sight, but there's no happiness on either side of it. There's just a lot of destruction, change. All right, so then on the other side, though, we have some really good change happening over on the other side. So if we're reading from right to left, we've got the 3 of Wands, which is 3s are sort of the first movement, the first creation, moving into the Princess of Wands and then the Princess of Cups. This is a tough one for me. I know that Crowley does the face cards differently than I'm used to, so I'm not totally certain how to read these guys. But if I was going to associate princesses with pages, man, and the symbolism, I'm just not familiar with the... The face cards are so difficult to begin with, and here we are with a whole new set of... Oh, the Princess of Cups has a turtle, and a swan, and a fish, and a lily, which... Okay, so typically I again use sort of like an elemental matrix to connect the face cards into the suits. So I would usually look at the princess cards as being sort of like earth of blah blah blah. So here we have earth of water and earth of fire, both of which have to do with like taking energy. In the wands, in the Princess of Wands, you have this elemental creative energy that you're bringing into the material world. The Princess of Cups, you have sort of emotional energy that's being brought into the material world, and all of it. Oh, I keep leaning away from the microphone. It sounds weird.
Oh, you're fine. I think if you run an EQ on it, it'll be fine. I can hear you fine in the cans.
Great. And then so along with that 3 of Wands, I would say that it's some sort of this is a much preferable future that hopefully is not tied to this. Hopefully you can just pick this one, or we can pick. Who are we even reading for? Me. Oh.
Well, we didn't actually specify, which was probably something we should have. In my head, I was thinking me, but this actually would make more sense for you. So, well, generally, there's a bit of histrionics in here, but generally when this deck reads about me, it is a dramatic little, drama queen, histrionic, screaming kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a bit of that in here, but this is an uncommon reading that if it were about me. So this actually tends to make more sense.
Okay.
Well, unless you're reading with reversals, then I could see it being about me.
I don't, I've been flipping the reversals around.
Yeah, I noticed you don't read with reversals, or at least on this deck. Yeah,
I've never really...
I'm moving away from those myself, actually, the older I get.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that in a second. Let me finish this. So now I'm looking back at the center 3, where we've got the Hierophant, the Magus, and the 2 of Pentacles. So here we have... I think I kind of see now. So the Magus, as one of the sort of introductory cards of the Major Arcana, is kind of like the beginning of a journey and the beginning of some sort of major undertaking or project. one of the nice things that the way I always interpret the Magus card is it's kind of in opposition to the Fool, where with the Fool you're starting off with something new and you have absolutely no clue of what's going on, whereas with the Magus you usually have the tools that you need in order to succeed. So over on the left you've got the Hierophant, who usually to me represents some sort of like internal structure of rules and ethics and mores. And then over on the right, you have the Two of Pentacles, which is, again, it's the only... I'm sorry, the Two of Discs.
No, it's fine. No,
it's the only...
Fucking call it coins. I don't care. It's all the same shit.
It's the only real, like, earthy earth card that we've got going on in this whole reading, isn't it? Yeah, so that one has to do with new things happening in the material world. I think it ties in very nicely to this side where you've got both princesses hanging out up there right above the Two of Discs. I like this route. This is better. All right, so the psychological Six of Wands. That's like the hero card where in the Rider-Waite you've got the guy riding back into town and he's all like, I'm big shit, and he's got like his laurel leaves, his crown of laurel and all that sort of stuff.
In this one it's literally victory. Yeah.
Then luxury, the Four of Cups, leading into the Seven of Cups, which is...
Is that debauch?
Debauch.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's a tough one to read. You know, Four of Cups is a nice, pleasant card that usually has to do with some sort of like emotional stillness point. The Seven is an obstacle that has to do with like an internal emotional struggle where you have to consciously decide for yourself, like, whether you're going to take a road that you can clearly see or a road that is completely unknown to you. And here it's called debauch. I don't know what that's about. Okay, finally.
Well, I think the idea is the overabundance of the watery nature. You know, like it's a bacchanal. Well, because if you look at the card and then think like overabundance, it actually does kind of visually. You know,
it does. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense with some of the more classical. Slightly more classical imagery.
Yeah, it's not I don't think that's the best word in the deck, although I like that word. I don't think it's like 100% the best thing for that card.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, and then finally the karmic spoke in the bottom.
That's what let me see what he calls it.
Okay.
I've always called it. I mean, I may just be calling it what he calls it. He says, forces operating beyond the querent's control, destiny, or karma. So
Destiny or karma. Well, we've got some cool cards here, such as the Knight of Wands, some desterific cards. Like the Fortune card, which is literally about changing fortunes and all that kind of stuff. And then the Seven of Wands, which is Valor. I like it as sort of a bookend here, where you've got the Six of Wands and the Seven of Wands next.
Yeah, that jumped out at me too. Yeah,
and it's kind of cool because the Seven of Wands is very obviously an evolution, right? You have basically the same design with the same collection of wands with the same symbols on the end, plus this sort of like natural-looking woody wand right in the middle. And I was just reading about this recently about how in Crowley's Thoth deck and the wands cards, every time the wands intersect, there's like a burst of flame, which I think is kind of cool. And what does it mean? Altogether, it looks like it's sort of about starting a new project, trying to pick the path that's right, making sure that you can take your passions and the things that you love and manifest them in the world, instead of spiraling into an end game of chaos and destruction. But, fortunes are always turning and outcomes are difficult to predict, and I just have to trust the tools that I have available to me through the Magus card. Don't fall prey to the excesses of debauchery, but instead... Oh! And there's also the two... Oh, sorry about the tapping. There's also the two sevens at the end here. That's interesting. It's almost like they sort of mirror the princesses of cups and wands up top. I've got the Seven of Cups and the Seven of Wands. So there is almost like there does feel like a choice being laid out here. That's an interesting reading. I really, I feel like I did okay.
I think you did. So here's what I took out of that. Weirdly enough, the second we said, "Oh, who's this reading about?" I just totally got it. This is the changeover from My Alchemical Bromance, the beer and fortune-telling podcast. Mm-hmm. There's your choice between the two divergent paths. I always take choose as choice.
Yeah.
With there's your debauch. That's the psychological basis behind the choice of the two. This is almost like a retro reading of.
It is.
This is the birth of Arnemancy.
This is the reading. I need to get a better picture of this. I'm gonna let me grab my camera here.
Yeah. So this is to me that's the birth of Arnemancy, and that's where all the debauch. That's the beer drinking version of the show, moving into the more, and that's also where I think the major arcana is showing up, where it's the seriousness of it or whatever. Not serious is the wrong term. But you can see how I like that layout where there's so many things, because then you can also one of the kind of my favorite parts of that layout is you can change your mind so many times across the layout. So we can
So I'm not sure if I ever told you about this, but when I moved to Portland many years ago, one of the sort of career paths that I had in mind is like, you know what, I think I'm going to be a beer writer. Because I'd been doing that a little bit. I'd been blogging about beer and food at a defunct blog that, still exists, but I'm not going to give anybody the address because, man, that was a long time ago. But when I got up here and I started exploring the beer culture and sort of like the writers about beer culture, I realized a few things really quickly. First, it's extremely insular, right? So breaking into it would have been very difficult. And second, it's extremely boozy. Like, you just can't do it without drinking all the time. And something about My Alchemical Bromance, like having that pressure, like, oh yeah, it's about beer and the occult. Like, that's kitschy, but at the same time, I also think that having that kind of like beer drinking element to it turns off some potential guests and some potential listeners, which, I guess it doesn't bother me a whole lot, but I think it's funny to see that was sort of brought up. I felt like it was sort of brought up in that tarot reading.
Yeah, no, that's what my take from that was. The second I realized, oh yeah, we're reading about you, then it's like, oh, this is clarity, because that made no sense to me. Mm-hmm. Those aren't cards that usually show up for me. And we talked about this in your first appearance, but like, I am terrifically difficult to read for. I don't know what it is, but like every tarot reader I've ever run into has had trouble with my cards. I don't know why. People, not to go into the long list of, it's just something like, I'll sit down at, like there's a tarot reader in town that I wanted to visit one time, and she ended up being at this metaphysical fair I was at. Mm-hmm. So I sat down, I'm like, hey, give me a read. She's like, oh yeah, do you mind if, and she ended up doing a secondary reading because I was throwing, my whatever throws curveballs at tarot reader. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I got it. Like, yeah, I know. I'm a fucking weirdo, and for some reason, my future is odd, or my, whatever I'm throwing out there is odd.
Well, I think that my first attempt at a reading with the Thoth Tarot was successful. Oh
yeah, no, I think you did great. I think you kind of understood the concepts because you were seeing how they cross-reference each other. Because also that's, I think, the point of that weird H layout is because you can see the X and like kind of how the center interconnects with futures and psychology and karma and everything.
Right. Yeah, actually, the layout of the cards kind of looks like Lad's edition.
Oh yeah.
It's a Lad's. We should just call it the Lad's reading.
Yeah.
The Lad's layout.
That would be nice. Yeah.
So we got some other decks here, and I was thinking, I really want to look at. So this is Eric Millar's.
Yeah, let's have you throw some. So Eric Millar is a local artist, and he has been doing on WeTheHallowed.org a disruption generator project where he's got a random word generator, and for 120 days or 120 posts, 5 days a week without weekends and possibly holidays. He's been posting the random word. He draws a picture of it, and then kind of a oracular reading of that word, which some are more difficult than others. Like I know at one point he got, I don't know if they happened in a row, but he got blueberry and bucket, which it's very different. Blueberry, you could probably make some kind of oracular, kind of interesting occultness to it, but bucket is a difficult thing to try to make. I
think bucket would be easier than blueberry.
A blueberry, you could do the whole Persephone thing, I feel like. I know that's pomegranate, but I mean, I feel like there's fruit.
But a bucket is like a container, and it's like the working man's container, right?
Yeah.
So you have like a whole operative.
Oh yeah, it could be like works or something in the tarot. Yeah, okay. But anyways, yeah. So he did that, and I have very little involvement. It's Keats who've been on the show, and Eric who is
not me, the other Eric Millar.
Eric Millar.
Yeah.
So I work at a print shop, and I decided to, as kind of a gift, because I'm working with Eric on another project, Eric Millar on another project, I made them tarot decks of the system because it's coming out as a book very soon. It should be on Amazon very soon.
I think Eric Millar sent me a preview PDF of it to check out.
Yeah, it looks really great, and it's going to be interesting. It's like a divinatory, it's bibliomancy style book, but I made a tarot system out of it because I work at a print shop, and it was slow, and my boss is cool, so he let me do it. And Eric has one of the 3 existent decks ever. He's actually the only person to ever hold the disruption generator that had nothing to do with it, which I had very little to do with it. I'm working with him on another project and made the decks for them, so I'm the Kinkos of this, but
well, I think this is a very, I don't even know what you would call that level of abstraction. Like, it's an oracle deck made almost entirely at random.
Yeah, it's entirely random,
ritually randomly created over.
Well, I think that's why it's the disruption generator. It is.
It just makes me think of like. You've read The Invisibles, right?
Yeah. So, not all of it, but I've read a good chunk. Yeah.
There's this scene at the end where they have this drug in The Invisibles that causes you to see words as what they really are. And there's a scene at the end where one of the main characters goes into some sort of like divinatory trance where she injects herself with the drug and then has a random word generator popping words up on the screen in front of her.
Oh, that's rad.
Which is kind of like this.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'll just pull out 3 cards.
Yeah, there's no system. I don't think there's a system. The only system that exists is the book version. Eric kind of invented a way to read from the book, but as far as cards, we don't know.
All right, the first card is enormous. The second card is haunt, and the third card is misshapen.
Oh.
Okay, I'll describe these 3 images so that the audience, the listeners, can get a picture of it. So the card labeled enormous, it looks like some very tiny people standing in front of an enormous like stone tower with like enormous things in the background sort of looming around. So it's literally an enormous thing. Haunt has a very shocked looking man with 2 sort of ghoulish apparitions behind him that sort of look like they came out of that Scream painting, the famous Scream.
Yeah, Edvard Munch.
Yeah. And then misshapen has a slightly cartoonish looking face that is very misshapen with big lumps and things. Its mouth is agape. Its nose is like a ginormous pomegranate, and its teeth are pointing off in every direction. Oh, I don't even know. Here, you read these. It's your turn.
Okay. So, enormous, haunt, misshapen. Well, let's see. My immediate thought is kind of a negative reaction to a project, to work. So, like, enormous is almost like, Tower of Babel kind of thing.
I was thinking that, too. It reminded me of Tower of Babel. So, yeah, okay.
And then haunt is, the misshapen, the figures behind it are the screaming kind of things. Mm-hmm. The haunting. And then misshapen is, obviously misshapen, this kind of ghoulish, if you think about that as a psychological thing instead of like a physical misshape.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the enormous is like this project or this like the looming thing that's happening right now, and this is the
running away from you, and the haunt is like the guilt or the feeling that you're doing it wrong, or maybe that it's not happening right, and then the misshapen is the effect that it has on you, maybe.
Yeah. So it's this is like very much like kind of a worry over a project sort of thing is what I would take out of it. But that's kind of the cool thing about this. You shouldn't even call it a deck; it's a book.
Yeah.
That I made a deck out of. That it is obtuse. Like I mean, it's I mean that's that's what jumps out at me. Or like, or the other way to read it would be a misapprehension of a work. So thinking that what you made is shittier than it is. Like, so if you create something good, you think of it as misshapen, but it's actually this enormous quality. Because it's not like so in the enormous thing, there's 2 towers, and it's not like they're inferior quality build towers. They're there.
I mean, there's people hanging out. Nobody looks terrified of it or anything.
Yeah,
it's just
so they work, but you're haunted by the idea that there's this misshapen mess. That so you're thinking that whatever your art, your book, your creation,
it's like the
your whatever.
second guessing of the quality of your own work.
Yeah. That's my other read, which I like that one better now that I think about it.
Yeah, that one. I think that one. That one makes sense.
So yeah, disruption generator cards getting some use.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to spending some time with this. Eric Millar, I've only talked to him a little bit, but he seems like an incredibly creative individual.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a good person to have on the show.
I will. I'm going to have him on the show. I'm totally going to do it.
Yeah. It'd be a good... I need to have him on mine. I've only spoken to him once on mic, and that was for...
yeah, you guys have some interesting projects coming up, don't you?
Yeah, he and I are doing a comic book together.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, based around Lad's Edition, and we're calling it Lilith's Edition right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so super weird occult-y book, but like done in a humorous style.
So you've got some books available on Amazon.
Yeah, I have Periphery, which is a full novel, which is just occulty and weird, and if you're into any of this kind of initiatory stuff, I think you're going to get a lot out of it. And I have a book of short stories and poems called The Void Sutras, which no one's read in forever, but I'm told by someone that read it recently that it's actually pretty good, but I haven't read it in forever. And I have a new book coming out, which is called The Theravada Machine and Other Stories, which is a collection of short stories, some of which are available on Amazon, but I wouldn't get those because there's going to be a book of all of them put together, and 2 that are never been seen before, save for a few people.
Mm-hmm. That'll be ready soon.
Yeah. I'm in the final stages right now. I just need to. We're in the kind of layout, last licks editing kind of thing. Yeah, it should be out. I mean, it'll be out this summer. Barring. I mean, hopefully within. What are we in right now? June.
Yeah, I think it'll be out by July.
It'll definitely be out. Yeah, July. I think.
Awesome.
It'd be weird if it didn't come out by July. But for people that are into magic and occult and weirdness, read Periphery because it's that's a book for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Periphery is an excellent book. How many minutes are we at?
48.
That's good. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
All right. So then, how can people find your work online, Alexx?
Well, I'm Alexx Bollen. Alexx with 2 X's, Bollen. That's on Amazon. And I'm the host of the Alexx Cast.
So the alexxcast.com?
Alexxcast.com. I'm also, if you're into movies, I host a show called John and Alex Hate Stuff, which is... we watch a movie every other week. We watch a movie and then sit down and dissect it with each other, and it's fun. It's a pretty quality show if you like movies.
Which movie have you hated the most so far?
It's a really badly named show because we end up liking them far more often than we hate them. But, oh man, probably. I mean, there's a lot of the superhero movies were pretty shitty, like the Justice League or Batman versus Superman. Those were pretty bad.
Really bad.
I think, what was the one that broke? There was one that we really Jupiter Ascending made us put a no more Wachowskis rule on the show that we will never do another Wachowskis movie, unless something unless for some reason they change their they come out with Titanic meets Casablanca meets the second coming of Christ, and it makes $2 billion, then maybe we'll rethink the rule. But Jupiter Ascending fucking broke us. That was a bad movie.
Well, then what movie have you enjoyed the most?
Well, the one that was surprising to me was last week's episode was La La Land.
I've never even heard of that.
It won Best Picture last year, 2 years ago, or was runner-up for Best Picture.
It's very possible that I'm a little out of touch.
Yeah, it's a I say that I don't even watch the Oscars. It's just I say that as it's a very popular thing. It's a musical starring Ryan Gosling and that lady.
Oh, yeah.
I only remember his name because I kept calling him Ryan Reynolds, and I had to be corrected enough times that his name stuck.
I get the two mixed up. I think they look alike, don't they?
To me, they do, but people tell me I'm wrong about that.
Yeah.
But it's a musical based in L.A., and I found it absolutely fucking charming.
Really?
And I was not expecting that at all. But the main kind of enjoyable one for me was Fifth Element, which was an early episode for us.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah, I love it. John hates that movie. So the whole episode is me just being delighted how much John hates that movie and me loving it. And I mean, frankly, I don't like it nearly as much as I say on the episode, but it's so much fun to have John squirm.
Well, I'll make sure that all of that stuff ends up in the show notes. Alexx, thank you so much, not only for encouraging me to start podcasting under the Arnemancy stuff, but also for being my first guest.
Oh, no problem at all. I thank you very much for allowing me to wear my cloak.
Oh, yeah. Do we have to pay the virgins now or later?
I mean, it depends on how long later is. There's I got some plans for him. Let's just say cool. we're trying both. You know.
Yeah. All right, you better stop recording.
Thank you for listening to the Arnemancy Podcast. You can find me online at arnemancy.com, where you can schedule a tarot reading or peruse the Arnemancy blog. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher. If you like this podcast, support it for just $1 a month through Patreon at patreon.com/Arnemancy.